Seth is here as well.
I'm sorry, what?
Seth is here as well.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, bring him on over.
Promote him.
Promote him. Evening, Seth. How are you?
Doing well, thank you. Thanks for having me join. I'm on my mobile phone, so I hope this doesn't pose a problem.
Not a problem. As long as you're not driving.
Yeah,
Same
no, nope.
Got it. Okay. I guess we're at five after, so I guess we can call the meeting to order. 5:35, call the meeting to order. Item number 2, public comment. Raquel, do we have anyone from the public with their hand raised?
No.
Okay. Oh, perfect. Hey, Sharon, evening. So moving on to number 3, approval of minutes, August 21st, 2023. It was only a short, brief, few minutes ago, as far as it seems, or as I recall. So,
I'll make a motion to approve the minute.
okay, do we have a second?
I'll second it, but I did have one question. Graham?
Yep. I mean, we're just waiting for your question.
Oh, I didn't know you wanted that first. On
Oh,
the
yeah,
phase-
no, yeah, I think you seconded. So, discussion, you're up.
I'm sorry. Phase 1 package in that this is trivial, but I suspect we should be accurate. Middle paragraph, Nick Conti provided, blah, 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 and the direct outdoor air unit. And I think that should be dedicated outdoor air systems, just so it corresponds to DOAS.
Good
Unless
point.
you don't feel it's important
Catch.
enough. It's really trivial. but-
No, it's a good point. I will make that edit. Thank you, Woody.
So with that change, I'll ask for a vote. All in favor?
I
Aye. Got it. Perfect. Moving on to number 4, architects update. I assume Justin, you'll be giving us the update first.
I can start. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. We fairly limited report since the last since we met last week. I can report that we issued the phase 2, which is the major package of the project, the phase 2 construction documents at the end of last week. They were complete on Friday, and they are currently with the third-party structural review, the third-party code review, with the commissioning agent, and with the authorities having jurisdiction for their baseline review, or at least they're going to lean heavily on the third-party code review. But ultimately, we're going to be asking them to sign. There are all these. It's like doing your taxes or signing, refinancing your mortgage. There are all these areas within the documents that require their signatures, as well as the 042. So luckily, we're going through kind of the dry run of that with the phase 1 documents. But so with the phase 2 issuance, that really kicks off this period of time that we go through another round of cost estimation, as well as kind of the final pass at any additional comments. And once we receive those comments back, we'll have a fairly quick turnaround to incorporate any remaining items within the documents before we ultimately go ask for this committee approval, this committee's approval, the Board of Education approval, and then going to OSCGNR for their PCR review, pre-bid conformance review. We also, as Adam has heavily noted to the committee, the phase 1 documents are currently, the hard copies are currently in the building department's office for their signatures. So as well as a copy of the SCG 042, which is the request for review of final plans. I believe there's a potential action item tonight for this committee's approval for that, both the documents and the cost estimate. So from a logistics standpoint, we currently have both the phase 1 and the phase 2 within the kind of review period. We also yesterday afternoon hosted a few building committee members in our office in Hartford, Sharon, Bob, and George, who were in attendance. We went through the 3D virtual model. Adam also had forwarded some of our stationary 360-degree views to the building committee to be able to peruse through. So we went through some comments from those building committee members. And we also went into our interiors library, where we had staged all of the proposed finishes for the project, colors, textures, materials, etc., just to give kind of a show and tell for that. Among the items for discussion, we had some discussion regarding the exterior canopies. There may be some slight modifications as we incorporate some comments, nothing that we think influences the mark in either prior approvals or costs, but that's something that we will be taking a look at. And
Nick,
we'll
can I
share
make
back
us
with
a
this
couple
committee.
comments about yesterday?
Yeah.
Thank you, number one. Thank you. That was so great. I really liked coming. It was great to see and touch the finishes and really see everything and just talk to you guys in person. I appreciate it. I appreciate your kindness with all my commentary as well. Regarding that, the canopies are good. I think what I have been struggling with as far as something fun and interactive and special that catches the eye as you drive by kind of thing doesn't need to be on the building. The more I thought about it today, I'm thinking that front canopy that's going to be independent of the building, that sits in that front playground for the kindergarten kids, that's going to be totally independent. I think that needs to be taken out of the project, if you will, and made something special. And I think as a committee, we can talk about it, but maybe we can procure an artist that does sculpture or something to make some sort of cool canopy that when people drive by, they go, oh, cool. And it kind of takes the emphasis off the big brick box. You know, something that is like I was trying to explain yesterday that I was very inarticulate in trying to do, but that's a steel structure that's fun, that's funky, kind of steampunk, that's a nod to a New England schoolhouse. Something that could just be a signature, iconic piece of, you know, we have the sculpture all throughout town, the Madison Mile that's done by I looked them up, the Hollycroft Foundation. Maybe we can talk to them and find some artists that can do something for us, that can sit out front, that can provide shade for the kids on the playground, but be something really iconic and kind of cool. Something that makes everybody go, wow, that's neat. You know, something fun and playful, because your interiors are magnificent. Your floor plan is magnificent. I'm so proud of it. It's so wonderful. That whole scheme, the whole concept is fabulous. And seeing it yesterday and seeing all the materials, it just really got me excited. The interior of the school is just great. And I've been showing friends today. It's just like I'm bragging on it. It's really, really nice. You guys have done a phenomenal job. But like with any school, it's a brick box. And there's just so much decoration you can put on the outside to deviate from the brick box. And I understand that. So maybe if we can do something special outside the brick box that can make everybody go, wow, I think is a better approach than trying to change the canopies. The canopies you have are really nice. I'm not trying to knock them. It was just not, I want something playful and fun associated with the school. That's all. And if we can just leave the canopies that you have, just orient them the other way so people don't get rained on. And maybe as a committee, we can talk about doing something fun out front for that canopy that provides shade. So that's really all I got. If we can talk about it another time. I'll take the lead on that if you want to investigate and find out the cost. Give me a budget number for what we were going to spend on that canopy out front, and I'll work with that.
Yeah, maybe start with the Hollycroft Foundation people and see what they might suggest. And,
Okay, yeah, I found a few artists that have done stuff with them in the area that do that sort of stuff. One's in Branford, she does some really good stuff. And funny, both the two that I really like were architects to start with and then transitioned into artists and sculptors. So maybe, you know, they would be good ones to reach out to, and I would be happy to pursue that if you'd like me to. As a committee. I don't know if we need to vote on that, or if you want to let me loose or what, I don't know.
yeah, maybe set up a meeting with Hollycroft and maybe, you know, just to get their take.
Okay,
I know the
Alright.
library received as a lot of some of the art was donated recently. It's a great source of donation. I don't know
okay,
if you've been in the library recently, but they did receive a donation from a significant gift of some art. And they have the Hollycroft stuff that rotates through
the
building,
town, yeah.
the town, but it also goes to the library.
Oh, really? Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's placed on the library. Also,
Okay.
they have art. And there was actually art that was given to the sorry. A
Anyway,
large donation of art.
So yeah, I'll pursue that in October. I've
Yeah,
got a lot
exactly.
going on right now, and I'll be gone for most of the month, so.
Exactly. And
Right.
having once we get the bids, it'll be easier to know where we are relative.
Yeah, so I mean, I realized what I was struggling with, and it's not what you guys are doing, it's just, you guys are great. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. So Justin, were you done with your presentation? We can move on to the construction manager's report.
Yeah, that's primarily all I had to report this evening. I mean, a number of this stuff is, I'm sure Adam will go over it, exactly where in the path of travel the process is, but yeah, I just want to say that we had most of the team that was sitting in the meeting yesterday in the presentation, so we greatly enjoyed having members of the committee up in our office, so it was great. It's all important for the project, so
Yeah,
thank you.
I just want to jump in real quick and just say thank you. Yeah, we spent a couple hours in the office. It was a lot of fun. It was great to meet in person and really, look at the things personally and then pull the finishes and, really see what you're actually going to get for your project. So appreciate the time and the effort coming up. And I thought it was a very productive meeting. So just want to say thank you.
Great. And George's not here, but I talked to him coincidentally today, and he was very enthusiastic about the opportunity, and I'm sure Bob's muted, but I'm sure he's likewise.
Sharon was the only one that would try the VR headset, so we got to try to get some other takers along the way here. Well, I think Woody will try it, so we might bring it to him.
Yeah.
So,
He's probably got one on his desk, I suspect.
Take some Dramamine beforehand.
The only other comment I have is if you want to learn any Madison history, take an hour-long car ride with George and Bob, and you learn all sorts of wonderful things about our town.
There are very few people in this town who actually were born here, and that's two of them. I think there's a half a dozen maybe.
It really was. I'm a newbie at 28 years.
Oh yeah. I mean, and Bill. Oh, I'm sorry, Bill. I didn't realize you were actually born in town. I thought you came in like first grade.
My father was actually born in a house in Madison. They didn't have enough money to go to the hotel. Yeah, not the hotel, but
there is a guy on the I'm gonna blank his name. He's fifth generation. He's the oldest. He was on the Wetland Commission for a while. He's been on a couple boards. But that's a pretty rare exception that you're fourth or fifth generation. So Woody and I are just carpetbaggers who just moved into town recently. So got it. So Nick, it's hard to top that one. You're up, but sorry about that. We didn't need to digress.
Sorry, I think I classify in the carpetbagger category as well. So.
Yeah, you're definitely carpetbagger material.
Quick update. As Justin mentioned, they've issued the drawings, so it's a exciting time for us. Our estimators, we got 4 of them that are on this CD estimate. They're ripping through the drawings and specs as we speak. Well, and that's 5:49. They've probably gone home by now, but they are actively into the drawings and specs to get going on the estimate. And then now that we have detailed drawings, that we get at this stage, we start reaching out to a couple of critical trades to get their feedback on how to best schedule and sequence the work. So there's a couple milestones in any new build, any ground up project. The first one really is being ready for steel, being ready for the erection of structural steel. And there's really two things that have to happen there. The first is you got to be ready for it in terms of concrete. You're going to have something to put the steel on. So the concrete's got to be done, and the steel has to be fabricated. So making sure that we get through that submittal process with the shop drawings and connection details with the design team, so that can happen. So we'll meet with, I'll sit with the concrete contractor and just walk through the foundations. They're relatively straightforward. We do have that high wall that separates the walkout level on the east side. So a couple questions for us that we have for them that we'll go over with that. And then I'll get with the steel contractor to just go through what they see as the quickest and easiest way to erect the building. Structural steel is always on the critical path of any schedule. So meaning if the structural steel slips one day, then in theory, the end date of the project moves out one day. So anytime we can expedite the steel and ensure that we don't slip during construction in the schedule is critical. And then the next milestone is getting watertight is the envelope. So on this job, we'll get with the mason, go through the details with them, the layout of the building, what they think would be the best way to attack it. And then we take all that feedback and we start pumping it into a scheduling software to put the schedule out. So we know the constraints, we know about when we're going to start, we know when we need to be done. It's how do we sequence the work in the schedule and get it out to bid that makes sense and something that we can work with during construction. And our virtual design and construction team is working through the latter stages of the design phase, BIM coordination. So coordinating the underground plumbing, above ceiling ductwork, and all the parts and pieces that you normally don't see when you walk through a building when it's done. But the building can only look that way because everything somehow fit behind those finishes, above those ceilings and everything else. So our team's working through that now. And that's about it for the update.
Great, thanks, Nick. Any questions for Nick? So moving on to Adam.
So in terms of OPM update, I'll just touch on the phase 2 package because we have separate agenda items for phase 1 and for future meeting schedule. So the phase 2 package is Justin and Nick referred to is out. The SBC has been sent the documents as usual. The same process that we've gone through at schematic design and design development holds. Review the documents and send me any comments you have, emails, call me, whatever makes sense. I would put the emphasis on that this is the last, major milestone. So spend some time, look through the documents. If there's anything confusing or you didn't see before or something you think is a major flag, don't wait necessarily to feel the need to wait and gather all your comments necessarily. If there's something big and you want some clarification, reach out to me or Justin or Jeff or Nick, just so we can get through that, because there's a lot that's going to be coming in on September 15th and 18th, with comments coming in from third-party reviewers and our commissioning agent, and Colliers does a review, and that all kind of hits at once, along with trying to do the cost estimate and some of the cleanup items. So between the middle of the month and the end of October, there's a lot that occurs in terms of cleaning up the drawings, getting reviews and approvals and things before we go back to the state for final authorization to bid. So like I said, send me comments, take a look, and if there's any major questions, just please reach out. Any other questions on phase 2 in that before we're going to go out to the phase 1 package? Nope. Okay, so the highlight of this evening is our first major approval of a package before it goes off to the state. So just to recap the overall process, and I'll kind of share on the screen here the major submission or document submission. So this is the SEG 042, and this accompanies each package that gets developed before it goes to the state. For this project, we have 4 phases planned. The one for tonight is our early procurement package that we've been reviewing the past couple of meetings for the early procurement of DOAS and generator and switchgear and pipe. Phase 2 package is our main building construction package. That's the one I just mentioned. That's in everyone's review. The 3rd package and the 4th package will be playground and then FF&E and IT respectively. So those will be coming down later down the pipe after we get the main construction package resolved and approved and going out to bid. In terms of sign-offs, this evening we have your all review and approval. Basically, you're accepting the package as, yes, this passage makes sense. It aligns with what we understand the town's charges, what the ed specs are, and you're effectively authorizing the plans and the specifications and project manuals along with the cost estimate to go before the state, so the state can do its final review and authorize the project to go out to bid. The other approvals would be the Board of Education. That's scheduled for Tuesday, the 5th. So you can see here the corresponding signatures. Graham would sign if you all approve this evening. Seth would sign on the 5th. Tecton affirms that they put the package together, and Dr. Cook similarly signs off once on the overall project. And then, as Justin mentioned, these drawings and specs are in with the various building official, fire marshal, health department, and the 504 for ADA compliance. So signing off on this document is the effective goal of the motion before you this evening. Any questions on the overall process? Okay. In the packet are the actual drawings and project manual and specifications and the cost estimate. I'm not going to pull them up because they've been in there and they've been in the packets for a number of meetings now. But are there any questions on that? Otherwise, really, it's just a function of going to the motion and potentially approving this. Okay.
Great, thanks. Do we have would someone like to make this pivotal motion? This major milestone?
Sorry, Graham, I'm trying to get into
Yeah,
it.
no, I know.
Maybe it'd be easier. I don't mind doing it. If Adam can put it up, because
If you pull up on the screen, that might be.
yeah, for some reason it
Yeah.
wants me to sign in. Great.
Yeah,
Okay.
Thursday's throwing us off here.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to approve the Phase 1 early procurement package and authorize the project. Whoops, can you move it down? No, I'm sorry, the window is in the way. Let me just get rid of it. And authorize the project to proceed with state final plan review and subsequent bidding. The Phase 1 package is comprised of plans and project manual dated 7/21/23 and a professional cost estimate dated 8/29/23.
Thank you very much, Woody. Do we have a second? I see Bob's raised his hand. I'll take that as a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll take all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Tina, I think your screen is your camera's off and your screen. I don't know if you want to weigh in. Yeah, she may have stepped away. Oh, I'm sorry. Are you in favor? I'm sorry. That's the yes. Okay, unanimous. Have that for the minutes. Thank you. So moving on to item number 6.
So we still got the second portion of the early
Oh, okay.
procurement
I'm
package.
sorry.
So that's approved and that'll move forward and the team will finalize the rest of the signatures and move that along. There's a second set of motion, a second motion in the packet this evening with regard to money. So this was discussed at the overall the several school building committee meetings, as well as most recently the August 28th Board of Selectmen's meeting, where there's the question of how to resolve the budget deficit that we encountered at the design development phase. If you recall, it was approximately 5.9 million after value engineering was taken out, that there was the gap between the project budget and construction budget and what the estimate was. So the Board of Selectmen voted and shifted the $3.5 million over, but there was still the 2.4 million that was left that did not succeed at town vote to be supplemented onto the project with outside with the capital budget funds, I believe. So the question arises, how do we make up the gap of the 2.4 million? The reason why this is coming up is when we go before the state, a number of the things that get submitted are the cost estimate, as well as the project funds, and they review in general what the estimate is in relation to the project plans budgets. And this came up at the design development phase review, where there was a question about funding and how the gap due to inflation would get resolved. So the discussion at the Board of Selectmen meeting and a discussion with Graham and reviewing the overall project financials is that in order to show the state that there's sufficient amount of construction budget available to take on the construction cost estimate, the funds that would be allocated as in the motions, 200,000 from the that was left over in the architect's budget, 150,000 from the hazardous materials consultant that may not be used if Ryerson's not being demolished, and 2.05 million from owner's contingency to construction budget. Those three values might be shifted now to the construction budget formally to show alignment with the cost estimates and to make things square before we go into the state for our September 13th meeting. Is there any questions with what that all means? And I know it's kind of a bit of a word salad, so.
It all sounds good. My only question is about the contingency then. If we take away from the contingency, is there a regulatory amount of contingency we need to have? And does that, or is it just,
right? So there's no regulatory amount in that sense. To give the context that I gave the Board of Selectmen earlier this week, when a project of this type is budgeted for, there's often the percentages of construction costs that go into developing contingency, and you adjust it up or down based on the types of situations you might encounter. Is it a existing renovate is new and you're going to be doing a lot of existing work, you're not sure what's going on there? Is it a brand new site like this site, etc.? And as a very, very, very rough guideline, you might figure that you should have half of your construction contingency related to sort of construction items, and half of your contingency for Collier's phrase it, owners, betterments or owners side items. So you think if you encounter some dirty extra soil that's not suitable, that wasn't representative in the geotech report, and you have to deal with it, that might come out of a construction-based contingency. Or if let's say down the road there was an additional you didn't want to put in one canopy, you want to put in two fancy canopies as a betterment near the end of the project, that might come out of owner side contingency. But 50-50 is that's not a hard and fast rule, but is just a general guideline. Is the thought process there. So the project started with 5.1 or 2 million dollars in contingency. We're approximately 5.2 right now. So by shifting over just a little under 2.1, there would still be just over $3 million left in contingency, which I believe is something like 6 or 7% of the construction budget. So it is not the if we were just starting from scratch, would we say, yes, you should only have 6 or 7%? No, we'd advocate for more than that to allow for some of the things that evolve as you go through the project, both and to provide extra assurance and risk management in case things crop up in construction, as they always do. But the point I made at Board Selectmen, when the similar question was asked about, how much contingency is enough to be able to move forward, having 3.1 million in contingency is still a viable amount. It's more than the construction contingency value that was originally targeted for. So to counter all the surprises that may come up. If we were down to 1 million, then this would be a much harder conversation in terms of, is there enough of a reservoir to move forward responsibly into construction. But at this time, there's no recommendation saying stop. You don't have enough into contingency to move forward.
Thank you.
Yeah, and just because I'm on the record, I mean, in my opinion, it's better not to pull contingency, out before you get to construction bids. But faced with the circumstances, and as the Board of Education has reiterated the desire to keep the 4 classrooms in, and I don't know if everyone saw the letter, but the Board of Education submitted a letter reiterating the desire to continue with the 4 classrooms. We're going to go forward with the reduced contingency, but we're going to continue to work every way possible to find additional savings below that. We're still investigating some possible VE and some additional soft costs that we might be able to move in to that. Especially with the uncertainty in the market right now, we have a lot less room for error for the bidding market. But I'm sure Nick would tell you it's a scary time right now for bidding. But we're going to do it, and if hopefully we come in under budget. But if the bids are not favorable, we're going to have to revisit some of these post bid VE, which is very painful and troubling. But
And
I feel comfortable that it doesn't make sense to stop and try to take $2 million out of the budget now, because that would just stop all the momentum we have. And the bidding market, we want to hit the bidding market at the optimal time. And I think Nick would probably agree that we have a good package. We can get on the street now. People are building work for next year. It's an optimal time, and the difference between 1 or 2 bidders getting bids can make $1 or $2 million difference if we get good buys on some of the trades. I mean, some of the bigger trades, the mechanical trade. Nick, how big is the mechanical trade? Just offhand, off the top of your head?
And this is probably going to be in the 4 million range.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I completely agree with everything you said, Graham. The whole, waiting is not necessarily the answer, because escalation and the cost of everything going up just means that much more has to get value engineered to get back to this budget number. So yeah, and 1 or 2 bids on some of the larger bid packages, the more expensive bid packages can really make or break the bottom line on bid day.
The letter that Graham referred to is in the committee packet for this evening. That was issued by the Board of Education. I forget if Dr. Cook or Seth signed that, but it's in the committee packet, so it's available for your own review if you haven't already, as well as the public can access it. A couple other just points that I think are important to mention while we're in this public forum, so that way anyone that reviews the meeting afterwards can have some of the background data. As Graham mentioned, shifting the contingency funds now doesn't mean that there isn't a value engineering effort that occurs at the construction document estimate phase. It doesn't mean that there are other budget line items that are being reviewed actively to identify additional savings or unused funds. For example, the town is currently in the process of getting quotes for its insurance package. They might come in $10,000 or $20,000 under based on some recent quote we've seen from the same provider. If that's available, then that will help reduce the amount the contingency will actually need to be utilized for the guaranteed maximum price contract when they go and get ready to sign that document after bids. So that process is still ongoing. The idea is to make the project flush on paper now, so there aren't questions about how the estimate would get resolved. And we will see what happens after the construction document phase and the estimates come in. But to the point earlier, we've got our first phase 1 meeting with the state on September 13th. So we won't even have the CD estimates back yet to have additional decision making. So this was the suggested path to close that gap now before we get into that meeting with the state. To that point on motions, obviously there isn't a separate motion every single time the project needs to use contingency for $1,000 here or $2,000 here. The point is that this is a substantial chunk of money, and it addresses a fairly public topic about this 2.4 million. So that's why the motions were drafted to help memorialize how the project is responding to these large unforeseen inflationary costs. The other component of this is, as Graham kind of alluded to, there's been some questions that have been raised. I know it came up at the Board of Selectmen meeting about, well, can we just wait? And maybe that's a better path, whether we wait and just for the sake of waiting, or waiting to do a massive redesign now, whether it be taking out classrooms or taking out geothermal or what have you as a major redesign. The point that was brought up in looking at the costs, both for escalation for waiting, as well as consultant fees for redesign and extending the duration of the project, that comes out to about the tune of 1.4 million. And if you do a major redesign, it's 3 months before you go to bid, and it delays the school year opening by a whole nother year, just because of the way that you have to redistrict and get things in the building. So again, that was stated at the Board of Selectmen meeting, but I also want to make sure it was reiterated in this meeting why the project isn't just either standing still or doing a major redesign right now to close the $2.4 million gap. And the last component I want to address was there had been also some discussions about alternates, and we have alternates in the project already, but I forgot where I saw or heard the question, but there was a topic raised of, well, can you just put the geothermal as an alternate, or can you just eliminate the classrooms as an alternate? Just again, for the point of the public meeting and recording, those types of major design elements aren't suited for alternates. Alternates are something where you can have a design and you can have an A or B option, but something like a geothermal redesign or something like completely removing the classrooms, that's not only would that be hard to bid, but the time it takes to basically redesign that portion of the building twice is really outside the scope of what an alternate is intended to be, versus something like I think right now we have a number of alternates in the project where the more simple, radiant flooring is currently an alternate, where it's not tied into the major mechanical systems, it's more isolated, and that's something that can be more easily broken out in bidding and selected or not. So once again, all that's sort of background data, trying to make sure that as much as we meet in these forums, whether it be this commission or this committee or the Board of Education or Board of Selectmen, trying to continue to convey the messages, how the projects are proceeding, being transparent with funds, being transparent with the design decisions and budgetary decisions on a day-to-day basis. So anyone reviewing the meetings or attending the meetings be aware of what's going on.
Thanks, Adam. Yeah, and I'd reiterate the 4 classrooms are in the ed spec, and we do not control what the ed spec says. We are implementers of the ed spec. So even if we wanted to take the 4 classrooms out, we'd have to go back to the Board of Education and ask them to pull that out. And they made a strong, expression they want to keep the classrooms in because it's critical for the education. And I know Seth, you're on the. I don't know if you're still, if you're in a safe place, you can talk. But if you wanted to reiterate anything about the 4 classrooms, for the record in this setting, you may not be able to. Answer, but the letter speaks for itself, and they're on the record.
Hi there.
Sorry. Yeah.
Hi. Yeah. Sorry. It took me a while to get off of mute. So yeah, I would just reiterate that the letter's in the packet. It speaks for itself, but again, just to reiterate, it's the demographic studies are clear. There are going to be more students, and it's the Board of Ed feels it's most important that we have a building that accommodates all of the projected student enrollment or students to be enrolled. And, some of the other features that there are some other features we can live without, and we've already discussed openly on the record and voted to make some of them add alternates or bid alternates so that we can help bring that gap down a bit. Thank you.
Thanks, Seth. Appreciate it. With any
great.
questions, further questions or comments before we move to the motion? Adam, if you could maybe share your screen again just to make it. Would anyone else? I don't want to put Woody through another.
I'll do it. Motion,
Okay,
I'd make a
thank you.
motion to shift the funds that have not been contracted within the project budget in the following amounts to resolve the remaining 2.4 million deficit identified during the design development phase. 200,000 from the architect's budget to the construction budget, 150,000 from the hazard material consultant budget to the construction budget, and 2,050,000 from the owner's contingency to the construction budget.
Thank you, Sharon. Do we have a second?
Yes, I'd like the second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I believe that was unanimous. Thank you. So with that, I guess, can we move to item 6, Adam?
It's your meeting. That sounds good.
Yeah. I didn't want to cut you off early. Go ahead.
So just
Number-
talking about,
Future meeting. Yeah.
just talking about schedule and looking at the next couple of weeks. So I should be showing the calendar schedule here now. So this evening, we approved the phase 1 package, which is great. The same vote will be up before the Board of Education on Tuesday, the 5th. The last discussion this group had was to cancel the 9/5 meeting because we had tonight's meeting. So I'll coordinate with Raquel on that if it's not already canceled. As I mentioned, we have our OSCGR meeting, or Office of Grants Administration meeting on the 13th. And then the next time this group is scheduled to meet is Monday, the 18th. That meeting will be right after we get most of our design comments from the third-party consultants and things of that nature. So besides invoices and meeting minutes and things like that, there probably won't be a ton to discuss at the school building committee meeting on the 18th. And then Graham, you said you're going to be out that meeting.
I'll be biking across Croatia on that day, but
And I'll be sailing the Greek islands, so I won't be there either.
well, maybe I'll see you in Albania.
There you go.
So it should be a lighter meeting. If there's any topics that get uncovered during the design reviews that are more significant, that might start to plant the seed for some big VE changes or something like that, maybe that'll get broached at the 18th meeting. But you can see we have a reconciliation for the estimate meeting thereafter. So really, October is when it's going to be heavier reviews on any value engineering items, looking over any major topics that come up with design, things like that. So again, nothing significant until the 18th. We'll meet again and talk about it, but just keep in the back of your minds that besides reviewing the documents in the next couple of weeks, October will probably be some heavier lifts, and we may need some special meetings just to keep the approvals.
You
and
throw
process.
October back up there for me?
Yep. So the scheduled meetings are for the 2nd of October and the 16th. We may want some additional special meetings depending on how the estimates come in, how much value engineering is needed, et cetera. But first things first, we'll get to the 2nd and we'll go from there.
Sounds good. Thank you, Adam. I think you're doing a smashing job as well.
I thank you, sure.
You
Otherwise,
have a
that's
good team.
Yes. Justin and Jeff and Nick, they've been great.
Great. Thank you very much. So moving on to number 7, public comment. Did we, Raquel, do we have anyone? I thought I was expecting actually a neighbor to possibly be joining us. I don't know if
We have one attendee by the name of Rankin.
yes, that I believe Karen had expressed a desire to ask us some questions or give us some information. So if you could bring her over, that'd be great.
Okay. Okay.
Karen, I think you're still muted. If you could unmute yourself.
Okay. Hello.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Maybe just introduce yourself and your, for the record, and your address.
Sure. Karen Rankin, 21 Little Hollow Road, Madison, Connecticut.
Great. Thank you very much for being able to join us. So if you would, I don't know if you're able to hear the rest of the meeting, but if you have any comments or questions for us, feel free to.
Yeah,
recognize
at this
yourself as
time,
opportunity.
I just wanted to know a little bit more about the traffic plan, in particular, the study and the outcome of that.
We can get you a copy. There was an extensive traffic study done and actually a follow-up study done.
Mhm.
That was submitted to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Reviewed that, but we can, I'm sure we can get you a copy of that document.
Okay, would that be something you could just provide an overall outcome of right now?
Let's see, the project civil engineer, traffic engineer are not here. I don't know if anyone would feel comfortable summarizing it, or we could just give you the information.
I can at least talk to the different reports that were done and the timing of them. Adam Lewis with Collier's Owners Project Rep. So there was a traffic study done prior to design as sort of a pre-design check to see if on the feasibility of the site and things of that nature. And that went through the process of looking at traffic counts and feasibility of the Mungertown Road and Green Hill Road intersection, as well as the surrounding intersections. One of the items then that came up as a result of a neighbors meeting was increased desire to look at the not only the traffic counts at Mungertown Road and Greenhill Road, but also try to confirm how many expectant parent drop-offs there would be based on Jeffrey and basically the usage of buses versus parent drop-offs, because it was a high number, but I wanted to be confirmed because there's impacts on parking and overall traffic flow. So an additional study was procured through this committee above and beyond that first study to take another look at the traffic counts to confirm the numbers and to get a better sense of the parent drop-off numbers. So I don't have the specific levels. Again, I can send that to Graham, who can send along, and we can put it as a retroactive into this meeting packet. But ultimately, there wasn't a major issue with the levels of service at the intersections. I don't know if Justin and Jeff have anything else to add, but that was the high level.
So yeah, this is Justin Hopkins, Associate Principal and Project Manager for Tecton Architects. So a couple of things. We can get the technical report that indicated that the number of queue lengths and trips that are increased at the intersections, at the corresponding intersections. I don't have that readily available to share verbally here. However, I can tell you, as a result of that and our neighbor meeting, we had extensive discussions about making sure that we don't have any cars queuing up on the street, any buses queuing up on the street, causing a bottleneck in the two-way traffic. So a couple of things that we've done. We have a Chevron or Regatta or fleet style parking for our bus fleet, so that we can have all of the buses that are servicing the school to be on site waiting to pick up the students. The other thing that we did is for the parent pickup and drop off, we have accommodated as many as 100 vehicles to be able to queue up on the site around the parking lot. So
right.
those
So
are-
I did know about that update, and
Okay.
and that is a good, improvement. I was more
Sure.
concerned regarding, I from my understanding of reviewing the traffic outcome, it looks like it suggested that there could be a traffic light being installed. Is that correct?
That was not one of the recommendations as we were going through the planning process. But we can circle back with the updated traffic report that was presented. The traffic engineer gave about a 15-minute presentation at P&Z, at Planning and Zone. so that we can, I believe that it was a recorded meeting, that you would be able to access and hear that presentation. And we can certainly make them available at a future building committee meeting to provide those findings as well.
Yeah, I just, if there was another neighborhood meeting, I think there would be several neighbors concerned if there was talk of a traffic light being installed on Green Hill.
I don't believe that was the recommendation. I think the level of service was adequate with the existing stop signs.
Yep.
We basically, redesigned the site to avoid needing the traffic backing up as a result of that. And that was a major design change we made just to accommodate those two issues.
Okay. And then just to piggyback on what was already discussed earlier about reallocating some funds for the redistricting. So are we saying that we're confident at this point in time that redistricting is not necessary for the new school with those funds being reallocated?
Redistricting isn't tied to the funds. I had mentioned redistricting as redistricting is part of the overall school district's plan once the new school building opens. That's not tied to budget one way or another. That's just the overall school plan once this new building opens and some of the older building close. There's a redistricting that would be required to ensure that the right grade levels are going to the right buildings. But in terms of budgeting or not budgeting, that's not tied to redistricting.
Well, no, you're referring to the tool itself that would. So I wasn't aware that redistricting was on the table.
To the extent we're changing the schools, the school model from to have one less school. I think that's what the referral was. That you can't do that in the middle of the year. You can't wait. That can't happen in the middle of the year. You have to wait to the beginning of the year before you implement that new school model.
Okay, but where the kids are assigned versus North or versus Brown School versus the new school, it is the current setup, the model still planning to be like the north end versus the south end, using the Pines as the
redistricting effort is still the same as part of the overall school redistricting plan and master plan that they have developed before the project even started, and is in conjunction with the Brown renovations, with the closure of the buildings, etc. So nothing's changing because of what we talked about here tonight or since the new buildings opened.
Yeah, but that's really the purview of the Board of Education.
Right.
We're just tasked with building a school for this many students at this location.
right. And what is the exact number that it will have in the school population, or what's the estimated number at this point in time?
So the school design is targeted around the enrollment projections that it's an 8-year high enrollment on the recommended projection model from the consultant, which was 640 students. That's the one that gets submitted to the state as part of the grant application. And that's the one that's used as the basis for developing the ed specs, et cetera. So 640 is the student number.
Okay. And what if it exceeds that amount?
Few years beyond that, it will eventually exceed that amount. It's the building doesn't burst at the seams once you hit 641. It's just that's the target basis used for the grant program and the overall development of the ed specs. And then as the school grows, as the population changes, the district and the town would reevaluate the use. So if 2 years after the school building opened, there was an explosion in population, obviously the town would need to react to that in the same way that they would need to react if there was a sudden dwindling in attendance. So the point being is that the code permits for more than 640 students. It's just a programmatic target.
Yeah, but just to reiterate, that's really the domain of the boards of education, and the building committee is not really tasked with those kind of. We're tasked with building a school for.
No, I know. The purpose of me asking that was just to get an idea of what the septic will, is made for, how big, things like that. It's just good to know these numbers. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for your participation.
Anytime. So if the next meeting is canceled. Will that be updated on the website?
Yeah, I think it will show up. It won't appear on the next meeting. We have to notice that yeah.
Okay,
All meetings-
because last week it indicated that it was going to be on the 4th. So, and that's a holiday.
Yeah, so that'll be canceled. We would do, that's why we had this meeting tonight. I think as I mentioned to you, because we were canceling that one. We're having this meeting in lieu of that, and we had some important decisions to make, so.
Okay. Yeah, the website wasn't updated. I wasn't sure. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other, anyone else with their hand raised?
No.
Great. Any further comments from the building committee or any of the other members? Bob?
Okay, I got to unmute. So just to comment that, the meeting we had yesterday up with Texon Architects was excellent and stuff. And it also brought me to the point which nobody's going to really like, that once in a while we should have in-person meetings instead of all Zoom meetings. Because I think
I totally agree.
It made a lot of difference with interactions and just, I think we got a lot more out of it. And it's a freer form to ask questions and stuff. So that would be my suggestion, is let's schedule some that are in-person meetings. I haven't ever seen Nick.
Yeah, he might be 4'6" for all we know.
Of all the public school jobs I've done, I've only had one that was in the town I lived in, and it's the only one that's always virtual.
We were in person for selections, and early on, there was a lot of meetings in person.
Right. So
Well, I appreciate, Bob, I appreciate the desire to see more of us in person. That's a kind of a rare request that I get, so
that's me.
I think we can definitely accommodate you, I'm sure.
I'll mark that down as potentials for when we discuss when we meet on the 18th. Because there's some meetings in October, not only for value engineering, where, to your point, Bob, it might be good for questions, but if there are final visuals or changes, things like that, to go through, that might be best done in person for some of those last minute items. So that's
Is that the meeting that's the meeting 3 people won't be present for, though, isn't it?
Is it 3?
Well, Sharon, I myself, or Woody, are you away?
No, I thought there was someone else. No? Maybe not. Sorry.
We can.
I'm leaving 2 days later, but that doesn't count.
Heading to Florida again? Woody, is that the?
No, Germany.
Germany. Got it. It's ironic, Bob, you suggest an in-person meeting when you finally get the technology figured out. But we'll.
I didn't get it figured out. My daughter did.
Okay. Gotcha. Touche. Okay. No, excellent. Any further comments? I guess I'd like to ask for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Do we have a second?
Sure.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thanks, everybody. Thanks all the design team. Major milestone today.
See you
I'll
in
say-